Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Trudy LPC, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Self-Aware and Up podcast. Let me tell you guys, today's guest, we go way back. When I say way back, I'm talking like college years. Like I will never forget meeting this fellow on College Club back in like 2001. And since then, we've kind of had interactions over the years, and he's really a phenomenal person, y'all. So I cannot wait for you guys to hear a little bit about his story today. He is a counselor. He's a life coach. He is also a foodie extraordinaire. He has a food blog and does a lot of videos about different restaurants that he and his wife go to, as well as a budding author. And also something he did not remind me of, but I just thought about is he's also a poet. He released a book of poetry before. So without further ado, please welcome to the Self-Aware. Hey, Vidal, how are you doing? I'm probably going to mess up your name because I've been calling you the wrong thing for like 20 years now, but I'm going to try to do it right. But I introduced you right. So how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. You made me feel really special with the introduction. I don't feel like I do all that stuff. I guess I do, but I don't really think of it in like a grand way. So, and
Yeah.
then when you talked about college club, I'm like, wow, people now, if you spoke about college club to some younger people under 30, they wouldn't even know what you were talking about.
No one knows.
And that
It's
was like
people
the
our age.
precursor to Facebook. That
Yeah.
was a precursor to Facebook and Twitter and all this other stuff that's so big now.
Yeah, definitely. I'll never forget outside Gun Hall when you were academic mentor over there in West Georgia. So yeah, we go way, way back,
Yeah.
way back. But so we kind of already dived in a little bit to our history in terms of how we met and kind of a little bit about your history. But do you mind just starting by telling the audience a little bit about you, a little bit about your history and your background?
Well, yeah. I consider myself Afro Latino. My
Mhm.
dad is half Puerto Rican. My mom is black. Hence the name that nobody can get correctly. I am a nationally certified counselor. I'm also a life coach. Um, I enjoy talking to other people about self care and
Mm.
about taking care of themselves and about, growing into new spaces. And by that, I mean, um, deciding that there's new things for you to do, there's
Mm.
new things for you to try. And I think that's important to keep some of that zest in life, to try new things, to work on new things, to learn.
Mm.
Because in my mind, if you're not growing or you're not going towards something, then you're standing still. And, stagnant people tend to be more depressed, more unhappy with life, have less to look forward to. So
Yeah.
I like to talk to people about that all the time. Everywhere I go, friends, family,
Mm.
coworkers, I'm always talking about that stuff because I think it's so important.
Yeah. I love that. I love the forward kind of moving piece of that because a lot of people do get stuck in their heads and stuck in their thoughts when it comes to like feeling like their current situation has to define the rest of their lives. And I love that you kind of push people in terms of like just exploring what the possibilities of change can look like. And I know that, I feel like I've seen you evolve over the years. Like you're definitely different from the guy I remember from college, and just kind of watching your growth has been pretty interesting. But I know part of your story has been around like just being able to overcome challenges of just being Afro Latina. Can you speak a little bit about some of those challenges that you did experience and kind of, I guess, developing yourself into the confident person that I see today?
Yeah, when people say I'm confident, I always think, am I really? I mean, I guess
Yeah,
I present pretty well. In my
very
mind,
well.
I can still use some work.
Mm-hmm.
I think it started with a big part of it when I was thinking about it, when I was thinking about coming on your podcast, was my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She was really big on kind of telling me, you don't have to do what everybody else does. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
do everything the way everyone else does it.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, when I was younger, I was really confused about a lot of things as a kid, but till I was about 12 because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
into sports really that much.
Okay.
Um, Other boys were chasing girls down, trying to kiss them and stuff. I was terrified of girls. Like when I was in elementary school, terrified. If a girl spoke to me, I would run. I was terrified.
Oh
I was so
wow.
shy. Um, but she made me feel comfortable with what I enjoy.
Gotcha.
And at that time, it was art. It was doing artsy projects. She was talking to me about Van Gogh and Monet and reading and
Mm,
drawing. And for a young Black man or a young Latino man, that's not something a lot of
mm,
people focus on. We're supposed to be out making trouble, running around, skinning our
right.
knees and stuff like that. And here I am, I'm inside the house drawing and reading and, watching documentaries on Van Gogh and stuff like that. And I
Okay.
think for, um, interesting enough, I think for my dad, it was confusing for him because he's like, what is this boy doing? And my mom was just very encouraging, like, you don't have to be like everyone else.
Mm,
Nothing's wrong with you. Other people are going to try to point out and say something's wrong with you because you're not
gotcha.
doing the things other boys are doing, but nothing's
Mm,
wrong with you. This stuff is great. Enjoy this stuff. She took me to museums and things like that. So I think that's where my confidence in myself started,
mm,
with her telling me, enjoy the things you enjoy. It doesn't make you less manly to enjoy art or to enjoy fashion or to not think of the things in the way other young men do.
yeah.
And then from there, um, I did become a resident assistant at the university, and that kind of brought me out of my shell. It
Mm,
forced me. I always tell people, it forced me to have to force myself to become more social, to
yeah.
learn how to relate to people, to learn how to talk to other people that might be dealing with social issues. Um, and from there, it just kind of grew.
Mm,
Um, I like to walk in a room and just think of myself as being a special part of the room,
yeah.
and being someone that has something to give.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times the world tells people that you shouldn't think of yourself in that way.
Mm,
And it really gives people a knock to their confidence.
yeah. Well, it's one interesting to kind of hear a little bit more about your background because said I've known you for years, but just kind of not knowing really that part of your journey in terms of you dealing with like, okay, well, I like things that are different or whatever. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all have our own little quirks and things about us or whatever. But I love that your mom pushed you to just be you because a lot of people feel like they have to fit in the mold. And especially, I know you said your dad is half Latino or and so with that, like the role of machismo in the Latin
Oh yeah,
culture, like I just can't even imagine what was like, did you feel any pressure or push from your dad to do certain things or live up to that part of the Latin culture?
definitely, definitely.
Okay.
I remember vividly as a kid was we went on a family vacation to see some family, and
Mm-hmm.
I tried to hug one of my uncles. He was like, "Whoa, hold on,"
Wow.
like a big open arm hug. And he was like, "Oh, hold on, we do the man hug with the arm in between and all that." Um, and I remember that vividly as a kid. But yeah, there was a lot of pressure there for that. Even though, he doesn't have much height on him. He's like
Mm.
5'6", and I'm five
Okay.
seven, so I'm a little taller than he is. His
Gotcha.
idea was that I was going to be this superstar athlete with no
Mm.
height. And so there was a lot of pressure there, especially when I was younger, like 7 or 8 years old, to really start getting into sports and being tough and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wasn't into it initially. I like sports, but it didn't click with me initially. It was more about reading and drawing and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and that was confusing to him.
Gotcha.
Um, because in the machismo culture, boys fight.
Mm-hmm.
They do adventures and stuff like that. And I just wasn't into any of that stuff.
Mm.
And so I think it was hard for him to come to grips with that. And for me too, I always think, well, why am I so odd?
Mm. Do you still see yourself as odd?
Yes. But I'm okay with that now. As a kid, I wasn't okay with that.
Yeah.
Now, like, yeah, I'm different. That's okay. I
I
like it.
love that. Let me tell you, I love that because I love people who embrace who they are. Like I'm a weirdo too. So I love when people can just acknowledge and embrace it or whatever, And I don't even like the word weird or whatever, but I stopped rejecting it so long ago that it's just like whatever. So I love that you kind of like, I am weird. I don't really necessarily think you weird. I just look at it as like you're just you. That's just kind of like how I've known you to kind of be, is just not really caring. And maybe you did at one point
Right.
care, but just how did you get to that point of like, fuck it?
I think after I got to high school and
Mm-hmm.
I formed a really close group of friends, of guy friends,
Mm-hmm.
and all of us were very academic, but we all had our different things we enjoy, different sports and stuff. But I think being with that group of guys that I'm still friends with today really helped because
Mm-hmm.
they were academics, and at the same time, they were all a little different. There was one guy that was on the debate team. One person was a wrestler, but we all had really good grades, and we
Yeah.
all kind of stuck together and had the goal to make it out of high school and to go to college. And so in that way, that group really helped me to even more to hone in on the fact that I'm different, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because they were different.
Mm.
And we all applauded each other on being different, being a different kind of guy.
Yeah. That's dope. Like, just straight up, to me, that is something that so many people need. And I really love that you really kind of just exemplified like the whole idea of finding your tribe, like finding the people that you can be a part of. You don't have to be exactly like everybody else in that group, but just finding people that will love you unconditionally and support you and help you grow. Like that piece of it. So it's just really amazing that you were able to find that in high school when so many people struggle to even find that in adulthood. Like, just to be perfectly honest, I see so many clients who just don't have anybody that really, really rides for them like that. And it's great to hear that you guys are still friends and you still kind of have that part of you. So, it sounds like all of you guys in that group were a minority of some sort. But when we were kind of doing the pre-show talk, like we talked a little bit about your role and kind of how you kind of see yourself in different minority character roles. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, I think I have a few. Now, it wasn't until you asked the question that I started really thinking about it.
Mm.
First off, being a Afro Latino counselor is a huge minority role.
Mm.
And I just thought about when I was in grad school, we might have 20 people in a class, and I might be one of two males of 20 and the
Mm.
only minority male in the whole class.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And then there's just the role of being Afro Latino. People don't know what that means. People don't understand it. They don't understand why my name sounds so different. And then I have this Southern accent. And so it really creates an environment where I have to be very sure of myself because other people are unsure of what's going on. And then as well, I think being a self-aware young Black man is also a minority role that I just thought about because I think for a lot of reasons, a lot of young Black men aren't aware, aren't mindful, are just going from day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely, kind of capture things about the experience of not only just being Black or a minority or Latino in that level of minority, but just what it is like to kind of be in spaces where you don't really necessarily fit or are not really understood. But being in an environment like, the West Georgia program there, which I'm still kind of hating on because they didn't let me in, but that's a whole different story that we won't get into today. But just being in that particular program where I know my experience of that was, well, we don't think you will be able to pass the national exam. And they didn't want to mess their numbers up by taking a chance on me. And so, I think you went into that program probably the year before I was supposed to go and trying to go into that
I think so.
program. And so just that particular thing, what was the experience like, I guess, being that only minority person in a program like that?
It was interesting. I went in knowing, first off, that there would be times where I would be basically the representative for certain things, and understanding that I wasn't going to be angry about that. I wasn't going to be frustrated about it, but I was going to use it as an opportunity not only to flex my academic and intellectual muscle, but also to educate other people. Because if you're in a room and 80% of the room is, middle-aged white women, and the other 10% is young Black women, and you're the only Afro-Latino male, you definitely have a singular voice in the room. Yeah. That's going to be different. And so for me, I took that as a challenge to speak up always. And I think what helped with that was my experience being in the psychology program at the University of West Georgia.
Yeah.
Those professors always encouraged you, if you had a minority voice, to speak up and to speak it so other people could hear it, so they could learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have always just kind of taken on that role, knowing that it's going to be there whether I want it or not.
Yeah. And the way we show up always has to be different, but also kind of better in a lot of different ways in order for us to be taken seriously in a lot of different rooms that we show up in. So you're knowing that you don't necessarily fit in, knowing that there are certain aspects about you, but still showing up as a representative and not choosing to not be bitter or mad about it. To me, I think that speaks to your character, because going back to what you said earlier about not many, no, I won't say you didn't say not many, but basically speaking to sometimes there's a lack of self-awareness in terms of our culture and how that plays out for a lot of different people. How would you, I guess, what advice would you give to people who maybe lack a certain level of self-awareness? If you were working with them as a coach or a counselor?
First, I would start off by asking them, what are you feeling in your life? Do you feel there's something missing, and what area is that in? Mm-hmm. And then from there, telling them this is going to be hard work. You're going to have to take a look at some things that might be hard to look at, that might be hard to identify, but it'll be worth it, because then it'll give you an opportunity to say, okay, this isn't working for me. This right here isn't working for me. What do I do now? Mm. But it starts with that serious and very honest look at yourself and what's going on. And then from there is when you can start to plan out how you're going to handle that.
Yeah.
And for me, it started with the fact that my wife kind of pointed it out. And so having people in your life that you can trust to say, hey, you're not doing so well. You're struggling. For her, it was pointing out, hey, I noticed that it seems like you're having these issues. Let's do something about it. Mm. So I really came into my self-care for myself when I was working for the state of Georgia. I was involved in a child death
Wow.
investigation when I was working for the state, and it went horribly for everyone. A bunch of DFACS workers were fired. And I ended up having a meeting with the commissioner of the state over that department. And she basically told me that she felt like one of the reasons why this child died was because of me and my investigation.
Wow.
And anyone that knows me knows I started in play therapy so long ago. So I love children. And so this affected me deeply. Like, I went to my car and cried for an hour before I could leave work.
Wow.
And then after that, I started having nightmares and panic attacks when the work week would start. And so finally, my wife was like, look, you got to do something. Because I wasn't self-aware enough at that time to identify it myself. She said, you got to do something. So I started therapy. And then her and I started doing martial arts training.
Okay.
And that helped me to be more self-aware. When I made it through that time period, when I made it through that created the self-awareness to always stay self-aware and to work on it. That happiness doesn't just come to you and good things don't just come to you, and being self-aware doesn't just come to you out of the blue. It's actual work.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is work. And then you have to be disciplined in that work if you want the best results.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, wow, one that was, I can't even imagine how difficult that had to be for you going through something like that and experiencing that. But I think the beauty of the silver lining there is that it forced you to change what you were doing and how you were reacting to things. And I'm assuming that that's part of what led you on becoming this self-care kind of guru that you are, in terms of wanting to be able to pour that into others.
Definitely. It definitely made me want to help others to get through times like that. And even maybe not even times that are that extreme, like something like that happens to you, but just a lull in your happiness, or you feel like you're in what they call a rut. Yeah. You realize you're doing the same thing every day and you're not providing yourself with any extra happiness or anything to look forward to. Those are the type of people I want to work with. I want to talk to about simple ways to kind of be self-aware, to care for yourself, things as simple as on your off days, make sure you have at least one thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
And for me, that's one of the reasons why I started doing the Foodie Fridays, is because I talked to a coworker who's a best friend of mine now, and she was like, all I do is work. And when I'm not working, I'm at home just sitting in front of the TV, in front of the couch. And so we both started telling, like, hey, we should really get out and do something about this. And we started meeting at food places and going on like little adventures. And it's been like the biggest change in the world. Because if anything, it at least gives you something to look forward to at the end of your work week.
Right. Yeah. I love the Foodie Fridays thing. I was going to say you like Foodie Fridays just because you like to eat, because clearly you
like to eat.
But I love the backstory to it. So I love that you use that as a form of self-care, but I didn't realize that it was just also another part of wanting to have something to look forward to. And I think that is so important. In terms of motivating others, I know that you are an author already, technically, because you have published a book, but that you're working on some things around being able to help others. I think you mentioned Black professionals that you wanted to be able to help. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you have coming out soon?
So I'm working on a self-care book that I have labeled Afrocentric Adventuring.
Okay.
So I have my own theory on self-care. It's called adventuring. And it basically identifies that as part of your self-care routine, you practice adventuring. And adventuring is about travel, it's about new food, it's about exploring new spaces in your life and the environment around you. And for me, that's things like hiking, canoeing, going to new food places, doing day trips to places like Charlotte and Savannah, and just trying new things.
You driving to Savannah for one day?
Oh yeah.
No!
I'll pack it all in.
Shaking my head. That is too far to be driving for one day, but okay.
I'll pack it in. But it's about, the adventure word is more about something new. The word adventure is about trying something new, about learning new things, about growing into new spaces.
Yeah.
And so that's what my book will be focused on, adventuring, some of the background story, some interesting tidbits about Black professionals and some of the things they go through, talking about things like microaggressions and how to get through that. And then identifying that my point of view with adventuring is that one of the things you have to learn is that what you will enjoy doesn't have to be for everybody else. And I was thinking about, I told a family member that for my birthday in February, I wanted to go snow tubing.
Okay.
And they were like, why would you want to do that? That's so white.
Shaking my head.
And so I told that person, I said, white or not that you may think it is, it's about fun and enjoying something new.
Yeah.
And so I'm also going to be talking about that, about being sure of yourself and being sure of the fact that you want to enjoy new things no matter what other people think of it.
Yeah. I love that. And, the other part of that is snow tubing is really fun. I've not done it in the States, but I got a chance to do it in Dubai at Ski Dubai, and it was amazing. And I would love to do that. So it's not that white. So nevertheless.
No, I don't see things in that way. I see it in, because I am secure with myself and what I enjoy, I see it more as it's something fun.
Yeah.
I try not to put racial labels on enjoying things, or I don't try to put you shouldn't be doing that labels on things that are enjoyable, that aren't illegal, that aren't harming anybody. I plan to rent ATVs and ride through the woods at some point. And some people are like, well, that's crazy. It's crazy to you. It's going to be enjoyable to me.
Yeah. That was that crazy. Like, Black people be out there doing ATV, especially when they go certain places. Maybe it's just the Black people I know. Maybe my Black people aren't black, as they say. So,
and it's more about understanding that what's for you might not be for everybody else,
right?
And being okay with that and being confident in that.
Yeah.
I remember at work we were talking about what people did on the weekend, and I was indicating that I had gone to the Savannah College of Art and Design has a museum here in Atlanta, and they had a Christian Siriano ball gown exhibit.
Oh, wow.
And I was talking about how excited I was to go there. And I'm the only male in my supervision group for work. And so all of them were looking at me like a man that's excited about a ball gown exhibit.
Okay.
When I tell you, I enjoyed it. So it was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful exhibit. But it's about being confident in what you want to enjoy, or finding what you want to enjoy, exploring new things.
Yeah. Well, somebody's probably side-eyeing you when you said something about some ball gown. They probably was asking some questions, but we ain't gonna get into that.
I got side-eye. Yeah, I'm sure there were some questions.
Yeah.
And there's always, and that's one of the things too, one of the reasons why I seem to have I'm not worried about attitude, because there always have been those questions. like I said, even as a little kid, people were like, "Oh, what's wrong with him? Is he kind of funny?"
Oh Lord.
He's walking around drawing, and he's so polite, and
So
he don't
because you
play
polite, you
sports.
gotta be like, how that work?
When I tell you some of the things that even adults will say, because of you being yourself, it's really funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't bother me. I'm gonna be me in any space I am in.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love that you don't let it bother you if people, whatever, because it sounds like you just really evolved into who you are and don't really care what others think. And it takes a lot for people to get there, just because people are so consumed with what other people think about them, especially in this social media age of having to look a certain way and be a certain way. So I love that you just are who you are. And that's a beautiful thing. So,
And it takes some time to get to that, and it's hard for people. It's hard for people to identify this is the way I am and this is the way I'm gonna be, and that's okay. And I always tell people, if you're not harming anybody, if you're not committing major crimes, if you're just odd to someone, you just gotta learn to be okay with that.
yeah.
There are very few people whose I guess it also helps that there are very few people whose opinion I'm worried about. I can probably count 6 or 7 maybe, but these people are really close to me and I trust their opinion. So if they say, "Hey V, something ain't right with you right now," I trust them to be honest with me. Everyone else, I kind of give them kind of give the Kanye shrug to them.
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah. So before we, wrap things up, I definitely will not let you get off without sharing how you identify with the idea of being self-aware and effed up.
I identify with it because being self-aware is a constant job. It's a constant, you have to be disciplined in it. And you can be effed up and still have issues, but be self-aware about it. Know what your issues are. Be self-aware enough, look at yourself enough to say, I'm having these struggles, or these are areas I need to grow in, and I know they're there. And doing that helps with everything. Doing that helps you to be more secure in yourself. Doing that helps you to be more focused on what your goals and what your concepts are of yourself. And also, it helps you to be your best self with other people around you. To be very aware, to be effed up, but to understand, oh, I got some effed up areas here.
Yeah.
But I can work on them. I am working on them. But I'm still going to love me, whether I'm effed up or not.
Well, I love that. So I appreciate your time today. Before we do get out of here, please tell the audience, how can they connect with you?
You can connect with me on Instagram, on my food blog. It's T_V Food Universe on Instagram. There are many food reviewers you'll see that are on the marketing payroll for some of these restaurants that they go to. So you have to be very careful of who you follow. We're not on anybody's marketing payroll. So our opinions are going to be honest. And we love international food. So be very aware. Sometimes it's going to be a deep dive when you see some of the reviews. So you can reach me there.
All right. And what about purchasing any material that you have, or being able to know about any upcoming books or anything that you have coming out?
Okay, so you can find my 2 books of poetry on Amazon under my name.
All right. Any other connections, websites, anything like that?
No other things to connect you with right now. And I'll let you know when the book is coming so that, maybe we can have a revisit and I can talk about that because I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait. Again, Vidal, I want to make sure I'll let you know how much I do appreciate your time today and just sharing and being your authentic self with the audience. I've always had a great level of respect for you, and that has grown so much since we started talking today. So really, really appreciate your time and your energy and what you had to share with us all. So thank you guys. Please make sure that you connect with Vidal. I will make sure all his information is in the description of this episode. Also, be sure to connect with me and follow me on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.